Welcome to the Madhouse. We're here on Path of Exiles 2, the early access beta, and I want to address something that has been brought to my attention by watching Asmongold's recent video on, like, when he mentions things that he'd like to see changed in the game. And the only reason I'm bringing him up, and it's not for clout, I don't give a shit about clout. I'm actually giving a shit about the game. I don't care what this brings to me as a content creator. Because I don't do content creation for money. I do it for the enjoyment of gaming. So with that put aside, so people can not even start with that, I want to mention that the Act 1 boss is perfectly fine the way it is. Diablo 3 had the same thing with the Act 1, Act 2, all the end game bosses were hard, and there's a reason that bosses at the end of each act or at the end of levels in gaming are hard. It's to prepare you for the next area. Now I don't know if Asmon comprehends his like, I don't want to say clout, but his influence on smaller devs, considering, you know, the help that they do with OTK and the indie devs, and, you know, helping them out with cost and, you know, helping them with money for their projects. He is listened to. People pay attention. Whether he wants to admit it or not, or realize it. And this is concerning in this case, because of the fact that if they nerf the Act 1 boss, people are going to be underprepared for Act 2. Bosses at the end of each act in any game or at the end of levels is to prepare you, specifically in games like this. It's to prepare you for the next area. I would rather the Act 1 boss be a pain in the balls than to have the whole Act 2 area be too hard because I'm underprepared. It's a skill check. It's a gear check. It's there. It's difficult for a reason. It's to prepare you to have the proper gear for the next area. If you nerf the Act 1 and the end of Act 1 boss, what's going to happen is people are going to be underleveled, undergeared. I'm even undergeared, and the only reason we barely pulled through it was because I was co-oping. I still don't think right now, especially with the current issues that I'll get to with the way the mercenary's working, I'm going to turn the music down. It's a little loud. I don't personally think I'd be prepared enough to go and do the Act 1 boss myself right now. Mainly, I have level 6, level 12, you know, I have low level 10 weapon. Base stats garbage because the quality's garbage. You know, I don't have the gear. I don't think I would be able to do the Act 1 boss solo right now. So me and my friend co-op the boss when we first got into the Ogden Manor. We tried the boss when we got to it. Got slapped around silly. More than silly, we got slapped stupid. Thinking that we were prepared to go through that boss just because we were at that part of the game. No, we tried it a couple of times, realized, and this was a realization to me. I didn't know where or when in the game. Act 1 ended and Act 2 started. So when we tried it for the second time and got our asses smacked again, I was like, this is the end boss for the Act 1. I guarantee you this is Act 1 and the end of Act 1. I didn't even know, because I didn't follow any stuff. I went into this blind, playing this blind with a friend of mine. I didn't go looking up stuff until I was trying to figure out, like, what are people doing for builds, or what are these subclass things when you character creation and stuff like that. I didn't look at the missions or anything like that, so I didn't even know. But what told me that this was the end of Act 1 was the difficulty of the boss. So here's the thing. If you're having a problem with Act 1, take the time. Stop expecting the devs to hold your hand and change the difficulty for you. And I'm sorry that people are going to probably hate on me, and I'm probably going to get some, because I've seen some of the degenerates that in the gaming industry that like to witch hunt, death threat, and all this shit. Okay, Asmon's got a bad take on this. I'm sorry, but if you nerf this boss, you're going to have to nerf the rest of the game, because what's going to happen is people are going to be able to beat this boss if you nerf it, undergeared, underprepared for Act 2. What's going to happen then? They're going to sit there and they're going to cry and whine that Act 2 is too hard. And then those bosses and those enemies are going to get nerfed. And then what's going to happen? They're going to be underprepared for Act 3. And it's going to be a cycle throughout the whole game. The whole game's going to get dumbed down to nerfed. This is going to be another Sifu bullshit. Give us a difficulty slider. Go play something else if it's too hard. If you're not willing to put in the time to gear yourself up, or to maybe even throw an open party so people can join you in co-op. This game's all about co-op. That's why it's online. That's why it's a persistent online, and it has guilds. It's meant for you to co-op. These aren't all not the whole game isn't always meant to be easy for solo. It's to be easier for co-op. This is meant to be a co-op game, or they wouldn't have guilds and they wouldn't have the open parties. So no, I don't feel that nerfing Act 1 boss will be good for the game. It might be good for the gamer, but it will not be good for the game. Because then they're going to have to recalibrate every difficulty scaling throughout the rest of the game, because people are going to just want to be able to defeat the boss the first time they get into that manner. And to have somebody with the platform and the influence and the community like Asmon has, that's huge for him to be saying, nerf this, make it more fun, make it less punishing. You do that, then you're going to nerf the rest of the game. Because people are going to just run through it. They're not going to comprehend, especially people new to ARPGs. People who know how to play these games and know that there's some grinding that's going to be needed to get your gear to the point where you can beat a certain boss, if it's hard, those people aren't going to have a problem with the difficulty. But what's going to happen is it's going to be a slap in the face of those people who are true to the genre, because then it's going to be too easy. One of my favorite things in Diablo 3, and even in 4, even though I didn't really care for the the change, I really liked what they were doing with Diablo 3. I don't like what they did with 4. Yes, I'm a fanboy of 3 because 3 was my first one, the first Diablo I got into, due to a friend of mine playing it and wanting me to play it with him. I do plan on getting Resurrected. I know it's not the full-on OG experience, but I do plan on getting it eventually and trying it out because I want to play it because I keep hearing. I mean, this game, these devs are completely influenced by Diablo 2 from Path of Exiles 1. They were open about being absolutely inspired by Diablo. So I want to check it out. You know, the goat of the genre, Diablo 2. But not anytime soon. Maybe next month. But you cannot nerf an act at the end of an act boss, because if you do that, you're setting people up for failure. You're setting people up for a hard time in the next act, and then they're just going to want everything in the next act to be nerfed too because they're under leveled, they're underprepared. It's a skill check. And if you can't comprehend that there's a boss prior to that one, that you can get really decent gear. We got like five uniques last night. Just farming that manor. The more and more that you restart the instance, it seems like it gets stronger. You get more elites, you get more champions. I'm using Diablo terms here, okay? You get more elites, you get yellows, blue enemies, and yellow named enemies, blue named enemies, and then you get better loot. You get better gems. You get, I got a stack of I got like, what, 8 or 9 unused level 5 skill gems right now. And we get a bunch of uniques, or legendaries, whatever you want to call them. You cannot nerf the Act 1 boss. What you can do, though, is take a look, Triple G, take a look at the problems that I happen to be having. I don't know if anybody else is having these problems with the Mercenary, but it seems like his bow jams, especially in bosses like the Trader fight that I just did, where you're doing a lot of rolling around in a small arena to dodge and everything. It seems like it takes like 3 to 5 seconds sometimes to get a shot. You have to, if you're holding the button down and you have your ammo, it should allow you to shoot it. Sometimes that doesn't even work when you let go of the button and do it. It seems like it jams. So I would say look into that. And speaking about the rolling, another thing Aswin said that I agree that the body blocking is shit. It feels like shit. It's not fun. But I don't feel that we should just be able to no clips through things if we get body blocked. This will keep it on par where people are saying, well, you know, positioning is skill. I 100% agree with that. So, seeing that we have our roll on our hotbar like it was an ability or you know, a spell, give the roll its own skills and support skills. Allow us to modify the way we want to roll. Like if you're a ranger, have the you know, the classic disappearing mist roll or something like that, or a jump or a backflip or something, you know, where you can modify it to personalize your dodge. It will help the problem with being body blocked, but it will also make it unique and not just giving you, okay, you can no clip through shit. It still gives you a component of having to level something up and maybe add support gems where maybe you get a double roll or you know, or something like that. But the roll mechanic, yes, needs to be looked at, maybe possibly because we have to use it on our hotbar. Give it its own list of skills and its own support gems and support skills for it. So that way you can personalize the way you want to be able to move around. And then you still have to consider being body blocked in your positioning and stuff and keeping it skillful, while at the same time helping yourself not get into that situation. So yes, the role I think is a good idea. That it needs to be changed. Maybe make it, like I said, make it like it's a spell or an ability. Give it its own skill tree. Give it its own support skills to it. So that way you can do things like I said, mist roll through things when you roll and you're in a mist. It just gives it another component of leveling something up, something to do instead of just giving you, oh, you can no clip through everything. No, because when you can no clip roll through things where your roll is infinite, that becomes broken. So yes, I do agree that the body blocking issue not needs to be addressed, and the other thing that needs to be addressed is give us no clipping player, our player character models, because I don't know how many times that me and my friend Simon were playing, and we've gotten stuck in areas and died because we get stuck on each other in a narrow hallway. It had nothing to do with positioning because we had no other place to go. Um, so give the player characters clipping with each other, no clipping, where they can clip through each other without having an issue with getting stuck in narrow hallways. Because that personally it has nothing to do with skill. That has to do with the design of the narrow corridors and hallways in the maps, and there's not being any clipping between the player characters. Other than that, I really just, this isn't any hate at all towards Asmongold. I just think with his influence, he needs to be a little more aware of what he's asking for. I don't think he put into consideration that if you nerf this boss, you're going to be nerfing the rest of the game, because people are going to go through the boss, because when you ask for a slight nerf on something to make it a little more bearable, a lot of times it gets over nerfed and then it breaks. I mean, look what they did to Radon in Elden Ring. How many times did they nerf and buff him because they kept messing it up? And that's a AAA studio. So yeah, I just realize in games like this, you have points into the game where it's making you look at your gear, your skills, your abilities, your powers, and whatever spells, and your own personal play skill in the game. Act 1 boss is fine. You just have to grind. And if you're not the type of person to want to grind, I'm sorry, then ARPGs aren't meant for you. There's no need to nerf Act 1 boss.